أعوذ بالله من الشيطان الرجيم بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم رب اشرح لي صدري ويسر لي أمري Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Eid Mubarak again. Inshallah, with the new session, I will be presenting with Sister Aysenur. And so inshallah, we will study an interesting topic, at least the topic that we thought it was interesting. Before starting, let me sure that everyone can see our slides and also everyone can hear us. Okay. I will leave the mic to Aysenur very shortly. I'm sure you are more eager to listen her rather than myself. So we will study, inshallah, how the punishment in Quran. So just one thing, we chose this topic, like we've been studying this topic with a few friends, myself, Aysenur, Aisha, Abdurrahman, and we usually try to pick topics that has a relevance in our life, topics that not topics that we want to learn about, or not topics that interests us or we want to make sense of, let's say, but rather the topics that can help us with our own life. So for instance, with this topic, we chose the punishment because most of the times in life we realize that we feel as if we are punished. That's I guess same for all of the group members. So there are certain events, life events at work, at home, with friends, while staying ourselves in isolation. There's always this feeling that things are not that right, or things are not that in place, and they shouldn't be that way. They are not supposed to be that way, as if someone is making this decision so that I feel bad. Or even without such a sense of being punished, there's the idea of sadness, idea of anxiety, idea of if you can say torture, even without knowing who's torturing or whether someone is torturing or not. We have this feeling of being tortured. We call such moments, we give them names. We say tribulations, we say these are some tests that we go through, but it doesn't change the fact that we don't feel right, we don't feel happy. So we realize that we have this feeling for all of us, all four of us. So that we said, okay, let's go and try to understand this feeling, what it is, where is it coming from? Or is it trying to tell us something? Is it something that we can read, that we can understand? And here we are. So Aysenur, it's all yours now.
Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you, Brother Birkan, for that wonderful introduction. Eid Mubarak to everyone. Alhamdulillah, we already started this Eid with the wonderful reflection shared by Brother Asim. And inshallah, we can continue to celebrate today by reflecting on our existence and our relationship with our Creator, and try to make sense of everything that we undergo in life, and try to see the meaning in things. So I'm very excited, inshallah, to share, the reflections and insights that we were able to share with one another as we studied this idea of punishment, of adab in the Quran. And hopefully, as we share what benefited us, everyone can also reflect for themselves and see what resonates with them and see how they see its reflections and resonations in their own lives. So beyond all introductory remarks, I think we can just jump directly into it, inshallah. So this is a verse that I'm sure is familiar for most people from Surah Al-Baqarah. It says, Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, وَلَهُمْ عَذَابٌ عَظِيمٌ. And for them is a great punishment. It's a familiar verse for us, and it's mentioned in the Quran at least 10 times. And just the notion of adab itself is invoked over probably like 300 times, I think, in the Quran. And so when I approach this text, this book as the speech of my creator, right? It's claiming to be the speech of my creator. That's the definition that I'm approaching it with. I can't help but ask the question, why is my creator telling me about this punishment? What does he mean? And why is he constantly reminding me of punishment or adab nadim? And so, in this presentation, hopefully we want to study such verses like this and try to understand how it is that I experience punishment or great punishment, and what it means for me in my day-to-day life, really. And yeah, let's go on with it. So before we continue any further, we want to try to make this interactive, and this is something, throughout the whole presentation. Hopefully feel free to interrupt us, feel free to make comments, questions, anything that doesn't make sense. Let's try to make this as interactive as possible, because let's be generous, by the 10-15 minute mark, most of you will have zoned off and you'll be thinking, oh, there's something important being said, but I'm missing out on it, or what is it? So, it's a two-way street, and inshallah we can both try to stay engaged, us as the presenters and you as the audience, by trying to take an active role in this. Let's not see it as me and Brother Birkan's presentation, but as this collective thought process that we're trying to all engage in and try to participate in. This experience right now for us, for me at least, it's being created. I'm undergoing it, so there's something in it for me, and inshallah something in it for everyone else. So right now, I would like everyone to take a moment and either go to this website that Brother Birkan put in the chat box, or just text the number. And I want you to write in what you think of when you read such verses.
Just the words, please. Sorry for interruption. So yeah. When you visit this website, you will see a text box and submit. Just submit one word, just a single one word that comes to your mind. You can submit multiple words, but each time, please press the submit.
And if Brother Birkan can share the actual page where we can see the lifetime results.
Sure, I will, inshallah.
So we can see what everyone else is thinking of at this time. And this verse in specific, but also adab. When you see that the Quran is mentioning punishment, when you hear that the Quran speaks of punishment, what comes to mind? What does it make you feel? What does it remind you of? What sort of mental state does it put you in? This is kind of what we're interested in. And we can, wait a moment to see, to have Brother Birkan open up the page, and see the different ideas and notions that everyone here in the room is coming up with. And it's completely anonymous. So just offer your, honest comments, because we all have, we're all coming from a place where these words carry meaning for us, whether we're aware of it or not. So I'm hoping that everyone's just taking. So Fariha asks, what type of punishment? It just, I don't know if that's a response to what does it mean for you, or if you're asking more of a clarifying question. But regardless, just the notion of okay, response. Cool. Yeah. All right, so I'm going to pause for a second. And Brother Birkan, are you able to pull up the page?
I am. I'm just sharing it.
There we go. Okay, cool. So let's see some of what's justice. Red. Cool. No need to hold on to anger or hate. Fear, justice, scary, contradiction. Okay, interesting. Annoying, was not really necessary. Imperfections, warning, regret. Why? Question mark, question mark, question mark, question mark. Justice for crime, being barbecued. Yeah, that's honest. Me too. Shame, especially it's Memorial Day weekend. It's like, am I gonna barbecue or am I going to be barbecued? Guilt, threatened, wisdom, question mark, question mark, cruelty, terror, oppressor. So these are all really, really lovely responses. And yeah, I mean, these are all human responses as well. I can honestly say that all of them resonate with me, and I have the same reaction for almost all of them, even if it's not always in the same words. And so we see that, and this is great. Just want to say again, like, I'm loving the participation. Inshallah, let's keep the same energy throughout the presentation so that I don't get bored, you don't get bored, and we have a wonderful an hour and a half with each other. Okay, wonderful. So maybe, these are all very, as I said, human responses, I feel, so it seems like the general consensus is on how we think about adab is maybe it's disciplining, punishment, maybe like that of a parent scolding their child, giving time out, right? You did something bad and now here's the result of it. Or if we can go to the next slide. Or maybe it's something like this, losing the high ground to Obi-Wan and losing your limbs to hot lava, or just hellfire, barbecuing, volcanoes erupting, I don't know, demons eating your ears out. Just you can have the full freedom of going to as many gory details as you want. Or maybe it's something like this in more quote-unquote practical sense, right? We see the various things that we experience in this world as punishment sometimes, whether these are events in the world that seem painful, horrific, full of death, things that invoke fear in us. There's also that relationship with fear that we have. Needless to say, punishment is not something that exactly gets me excited. And yet, the speaker, the creator, is telling me that punishment awaits me. And not just once, okay, you would mention it once or twice, just, kind of threaten a kid or something, but multiple times, constantly reminding me of this. How do I make sense of this? This is one of the questions that really intrigued me and with which, I wanted to approach this sort of study. So moving on, why study punishment? Let me say a few more words and then I'll hand it over to Brother Birkan. I think we wanted to especially study this in such a way where we looked at examples in our practical life, right? I think, at least for me, it's very easy to look at something like the notion of adab, of punishment, and approach it in this sort of vague, abstract sense, or as an academic concept that we break into intellectual pieces and digest and have, circles over, or perhaps look at its linguistic components and say, the root word of this is that. And yeah, we're going to do that, just disclaimer. Or maybe even historical understandings and seeing, okay, this is in response to those people that went against the prophet. And thank God, see, we're not those. And there's a space and time for that. If you're interested in that, that's great. That's wonderful. Good luck. But now, we want to understand what it means for us experientially. And I really think that's the key word. I love that word. What it means for us in our daily lives. What it means for me in my relationship to my husband, in my relationship to my boss, my studies. We want to understand how it plays out in our lives as human beings. You know, we went through all these wonderful presentations yesterday and then the one today, where as human beings, we have these endless qualities and an endless capacity to feel, think, and experience. And so, how do I understand punishment experientially? How do I make it relevant in my life? And not just make it relevant, but see how it is relevant in my life. So inshallah, you know, that's some of the ways in which we want to approach this topic altogether. And you know, this is an open invitation for all of you to also approach it in this way, and work with us.
Jazakallah khairan. That was a very beautiful reminder of how we should be approaching Quran, at least within the scope of this presentation. As I said previously, at least again for now, we are not interested in trying to understand or just trying to make sense, you know, what it means, how it is used in Quran, so on and so forth, which are like we will do partially because they are necessary steps to implement it in our lives. But I guess the one reason we start studying this because we need mercy and healing for our wounded hearts in life. Like we find ourselves as wounded through, you know, the experiences we go through. I guess the age, like a mean age of this group, I'm just quickly checking the participants is high enough to assume that we all either going to work or having some studies to complete. So you have to deal with people. You have to please some people. And you know, through all these things that we go through in life, we need healing. We need to see mercy of our Creator. So I'm sorry for making such jumps, like I'm talking about the Creator, but for this presentation, we're just assuming, you know, we have a sense of Creator. We have a sense that everything is being created in front of us, but still cannot help us but feel sometimes abandoned, sometimes punished, sometimes tortured, sometimes sad, sometimes happy. And this is the way we will approach Quran, is trying to extract something out of these verses so that they can help us with healing and seeing the mercy in life, inshallah. And so trying to, you know, asking for guidance, asking healing from Quran, we look at, you know, how there's the idea, this azab, the usual translation is punishment, torture, so I'm sticking to it. But this is interesting. Quran uses this word in different ways in Quran, the same word. So we said, you know, we wouldn't study linguistically or we wouldn't look at the etymology of the verb, but sometimes, you know, they may help when used in place. So when we look at this word, azab, so here, for instance, in this verse, azbun, the same, you know, the root, the different form is used. It's very interesting. The meaning is completely different. It says one fresh and sweet, and one salty and bitter. So talking about this is Surah chapter Furqan. It's talking about the two seas or two say water two masses of water, and it says one of them maybe rivers, yes, maybe rivers, and one of them is sweet and fresh, azbun. The word azbun is sweet and fresh in this verse. So same thing, same idea is used in Quran to refer something sweet, something delicious, something that we enjoy, something very pleasant. And this is not the only place. And when we, very quickly look at this word azab, we see that it has a different meaning, not only punishment. One meaning is, as I said, it's sweetness or becoming something or making something sweet. Like one inappropriate example would be if you take a glass of wine and treat it with spices and make it warm enough so that it will be more pleasant to drink, you would say, you making it like it, you azabbing it, if you can say, to make it more pleasant or sweet. How I know this? It's just, the general knowledge, not from practice. The most common use of the word is punishment, torture, pain. But there's also one hidden meaning of this word. This is not explicitly used in Quran, but it's hinder or preventing something, or if you cut, obstruct something, like if you have two things, connected, if you cut the links between them and so on. So, okay, enough of linguistic. As Aysenur said, this is not our main concern, worry. But the thing is, Quran, maybe like using such a word to describe our situation when we feel torture, when we feel sad, or when we feel unsatisfied. By using such a verse, making connection something sweet or something made sweet, pleasant, and then torture, pain, and also implicitly suggesting that they are linked together, or maybe because of some hindrance, some prevention, like removing something between things, that sweetness becomes pain, punishment. So all these implications there when Quran uses this word, and we thought maybe this could be our prescription. Like we were looking for healing, we were looking for a way to see mercy in creation, and maybe using this word, Quran is prescribing us a solution. First, defining, through the symptoms, that my anxiety, my sadness, my feeling of torture, Quran is telling me that okay, there's a reason for that, Birkan. I will teach you, I will show you, I will guide you. I will tell you why this is so that you will know how to, get the cure, how to get guidance, how to get healing for that. So this will be our approach, this will be our methodology. Just keep in mind these three meanings, if you don't mind. And we will have three case studies, or three ways Quran approaches this idea of punishment or torture or pain, however you want to translate, or sweetness. And we will try to see how we can guidance from that, inshallah. And the first case study, I'm leaving mic to Aysenur. Inshallah, he will explain us.
Thank you. So inshallah, as Brother Birkan said, we think that going through sort of case studies is very conducive to trying to understand punishment and try to break it down for us in sort of practical terms. Again, I'm just going to reiterate, feel free to raise your hand at any moment, and inshallah our moderator will unmute you for that as well. Again, let's try to keep it interactive as possible, whether you agree, disagree, find that it resonates within you, etc. Okay. So for this first case study, we'll be looking at these two verses. So the first verse is again from chapter Baqarah, verse 6. It says, "Inna alladhina kafaru sawa'un alayhim a'anzartahum am lam tunzirhum la yu'minun." And the second one says, "Hatama Allahu ala qulubihim wa ala sam'ihim wa ala absarihim ghishawa wa lahum adhabun adhim." And it says, "Indeed, those who disbelieve, it is all the same for them, whether you warn them or do not warn them, they will not believe. And Allah, God, has set a seal upon their hearts and upon their hearing, and over their vision is a veil, and for them is a great punishment." Adhabun adhim. So throughout all of these presentations that we've listened to, we always, as you might have noticed, we always start with our existence and see how we can extract a meaning, a message from everything that we interact with. You know, in existence, I see that everything around me is delivering a sort of speech to me. Everything is speaking to me. And these messages are most clear to me when I experience a sort of interruption in my life, perhaps in the form of sad or angry moments. And these moments of interruption in which it seems like my happiness, my joy is being interrupted, or something heavy, something, some state of being is coming down onto me that I need to make sense of. These moments remind me that I am being delivered meaningful speech, whether I realize it or not, whether I'm a conscious recipient of it or not. But I have to utilize them as opportunities to reflect and read their meanings. Because it's when I ignore such moments and dismiss them as meaningless or random that I become a person that the Quran defines as a disbeliever, someone who ignores when they are warned, someone who ignores messages that are sent to them. And it's interesting, the verses here define such people as disbelievers. People, whether they are warned or not through experiences, they wouldn't see those experiences as warnings because they think that everything is happening by itself, randomly acting, accidentally operating. And when you think that something is accidentally operating or just randomly coming by, you don't search for the meaning of it. You say, oh, okay, this is terrible, or this is bad luck, whatever. And it's through those sort of moments that I come to experience a sort of torment. And so, you know, when I look at such a verse, I ask myself, what are the moments in my life, because this is being communicated to me here and now by my Creator, the text is claiming to be from my Creator. I ask myself, what are the moments in my life in which I don't make myself a conscious, open recipient to such warnings, to such meaningful speech? And those moments that I disregard, that I dismiss as either meaningless or just random, or I don't reflect over them, those moments bring states of punishment to me. When I don't read the message and meaning and experiences in creation, then I'm given punishment. I experience that punishment in the form of torment, perhaps in the form of anxiety, in the form of explicit meaninglessness. Because there's nothing, it's like a book that I open and there's blank pages. I don't look to read anything. And so, in which case, as I said, I experienced some form of punishment internally within myself. And I think there's two parts to such states, a diagnosis and a prescription. The diagnosis aspect of it is telling me that sometimes I feel punished because I don't see the various experiences in my life as opportunities, as warnings for myself. I don't read them. Or even if it's not something sad or, angry or upsetting, even if it's something great happens, I receive the best news ever. If I still don't see it as a message or with anything there for me, anything that I have a stake in, then I also experience a form of punishment. It becomes a burden for me. And I just, I may temporarily enjoy it, but it's very brief and passing. And, just for myself, most of the times this manifests in the form of meaningless anxiety. If things happen and I can't read them, I can't interact with them, I can't see how they are speeches to me, how they are an opportunity given to me, created for me, specifically for me, my life becomes full of torture because I am oblivious to the messages there. But in another sense, there is a prescriptive dimension to it. Because if I can see my life as speaking to me, then I would take such moments as opportunities for myself. Improvements in terms of how I connect to my Creator, how I communicate with Him, how I acknowledge Him, states that I would call, my ubudiyya. And I see them as a chance to see my weaknesses, my needs, and how I'm being sustained. Those moments of grief or sadness or anger become reflections of my own existential poverty, if you will. They showcase to me how needy I am, how weak I am, and how I need someone to take care of me, and how I am being taken care of and sustained. And I think that the sort of torment or punishment that I experience when I dismiss them as meaninglessness is especially prescriptive because they become invitations of mercy, invitations of healing, in which I am told by my source that I do not like such meaninglessness. I'm told through that experience of not liking the meaninglessness that I am not created in such a way to experience and like meaninglessness. I do not like being able to make sense of what I undergo in my life. And so, again, I guess in terms of understanding this conceptually, if I approach things as meaningful, as things to be read, as opportunities to be warned in various ways, I have the choice to either read them or to not read them. And when I dismiss them, when I don't even bring about the awareness that they can be read, then I experience it first and foremost for myself immediately that I undergo a form of punishment. Because I feel that in me. In that very experience, the punishment is attached to it. So those are just, a few remarks that I wanted to share. And here, just we have a funny little, as everyone's probably used to seeing, comic thing from Calvin and Hobbes, where Hobbes says, "Is it right to remain ignorant?" And Calvin says, "I don't know, but I refuse to find out." And there's always that choice that we have to make. But I think Brother Birkan can further elaborate, inshallah.
Jazakallah khairan. Thank you very much. So for this part, I need a volunteer husband. I know there are a lot among us, so if nobody volunteers, I will pick some names. A volunteer husband other than Yusuf, please. Just raise your hand. Please don't be shy. We don't have much time. Come on. Jalal, would you like to volunteer? If you can raise your hand or make any, thumbs up, thumbs down, something. Muhammad, okay, please. Okay, let me unmute you. So thank you, first of all. I'd like to ask you a question, but please be honest, okay? Don't be trying to, enlightened, wise guy. Just, share us what you would do with such a situation. So imagine you eating your food or doing something like nothing special. Your wife comes and starts shouting at you, getting angry. I don't know why you are making such noises. Because of you, Yaqub was not able to sleep, and start, shouting at you, yelling at you. So how would you feel? Would you respond to such a situation? Like at least your ideas to your even. I'm not asking about the ones that you articulate to your wife, but the real ones that you have in your mind.
I feel down, first of all. And that happens, first of all. And I feel down, and then definitely look for the ideal situation that I find myself with, that I don't want to be in that situation, neither her. Excuse me. On my other wrist. Excuse me. So I don't know if that's enough for.
Yes, great. Like one question, for instance, when such thing happens and you know that you didn't do anything, would you think things like, oh, she's having a bad day, maybe, I should be nice to her, or, something happened probably, and this is the reason she's acting this way?
Yes, I do think that way too. I do think that way. It must be related to something else that she has in her mind. Such things come to my mind too.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So I usually take such moments and such, the attitudes that we have against, such events. That's something out of, let's say, ordinary, the order of things happens. And we usually take it as, oh yeah, something happened to her, happened to him, she's having a bad day. Or, we see something bad happens in front of us, and we think, like, let's say our loved friend Muhammad Alan does something terrible and hit someone, innocent person, in front of me. I know he's really good with kicking, so he kicks someone, an innocent person, and I feel bad, which is normal. And then I think all these things about Muhammad Alan. And I take such events, such experiences, as usually like my creator is gossiping with me. He's creating such an event in front of me, either my wife, my husband, or Muhammad Alan doing something. And this event is about them. So she's having a bad day, or Muhammad Alan kicking an innocent person. So there is nothing in this event for me. It's about them. Or as verse here, the verse that we read describes, whether we are warned or not, we wouldn't believe that there is something in it for us. It's Muhammad Alan kicking the innocent person. Like, why should I be worried about that? Or at most, I get angry, I get sad, but there's nothing in it for me. There is no warning, there is no message there. My creator, for instance, not trying to tell me that, Birkan, as a human, you have this potential, acting unjust to innocent people. You should watch what you see here. You should take it as a warning. You should think about yourself. You should think about your capacity, your potentials, and make the right choice. And this event is for you, not for Muhammad Alan. Yes, there's an aspect of it which look at Muhammad Alan, which I should, call authorities, because I cannot handle myself. Call authorities, make him arrested. That's for sure. But the aspect that look at me is a warning for me. It's a message for me to read. Or, my wife acting strange. is a warning for me to see something there, to read and understand, but I don't do it that way. I take all events. So these are just, you know, the example events that, you know, the interruptions, let's say, in our ordinary life. We don't take even interruptions, even, you know, these big events as warning or messages to be read, let alone every other experience that we have in life. A beautiful thing happens, a sweet things in front of us, given to us, a food I enjoy. The food is given to me as a message, but I don't read it that way because I act as a disbeliever, unbeliever. Whether the best food or not, whether you want them or not, whether I enjoy food or not, again, whether you want them or not, I don't believe, I don't take it as a message. So what happens, all these moments, I just go through and they pass away. The anger of my wife becomes a meaningless anger that I had to live with. This is my life. A happy moment, a sweet thing in my life, a husband, pleasant, sweet thing. I enjoy achievement, I enjoy, I don't know, food. But there is no message there because I cut the link of this sweetness and its creator. It's not something given to me. So I hinder, as if you can say, the path between this sweetness and its maker and its author that's speaking. And what is left to me is just yet another moment I have to go through, sweet or not, and it goes away. I have the enjoyment, this immediate enjoyment, temporary enjoyment for a moment. And then once I cut this link, or once this link is being cut, the link between sweetness and the giver of the sweetness, what is left to me in the rest of my life is either a meaningless anxiety or meaningless anger, or a food that I have to, you know, eat next time I'm hungry again. I mean, think about, like, even for the people who most enjoy food, there are these moments that we have to eat because I want to do something else, but I have to eat. So again, when we don't things as warnings, when we don't take things as a message, we cut the link between the link between the sweetness and the giver, and what is left is torture, punishment to us. There's a long comment from Faraz. So Faraz, if you like to elaborate your comment, I would prefer this much better because I'm sure you would articulate it much better than I am. Otherwise, I'm happy to read it, but I prefer you elaborate it. So if you can raise your hand or give any sign for us to read, I can unmute you. Otherwise, I will. Okay, great.
So Birkan, I don't want to interrupt your presentation. It's going really nice, and I may have to be away from the computer, so I left it there maybe for end of presentation. So either at the end I can read it, or at the end somebody else will read it. So
I realize. Okay, ignore this comment till end of the presentation. Thank you. Thank you. Okay.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, I will inshallah read it at the end. So okay, let's go with the second case study from Quran, again, to understand why we have this sense of punishment. And this is another two verses from Surah Baqarah. This is again talking about the punishment or azab, which also has a link to sweetness. And of the people, and all the people are some who say, we believe in Allah and the last day, but they are not believers. We believe in Allah and the last day, but they are not believers. In their hearts is disease, so Allah has increased their disease, and for them is a painful punishment because they used to lie. So before it was a great punishment, now it's painful punishment, but again, punishment. So we said, okay, one the way to see the why or how we have this sense of punishment or pain, torture, and Quran told us that this is because you don't see messages, you don't see warnings, you don't see things being created and given to you from me, directly from me, and directly to you. It's not about your wife, it's not about Muhammad, it's about you. I'm talking to you. And you don't see these, hence you end up with, pointless moments. Even if you enjoy in the moment, but what you end up with is something which is sweetness is taken away. And now we see another way. I think like when I read this verse, it's talking about another state of us in which we have kind of connection with the reality. We have, a sense of a kind of understanding that, yes, everything is being created by someone, something. I know that, I didn't create it, definitely. But this thing, the thing that creates it's irrelevant for me. Like, if you ask me whether I created the universe or not, are you crazy? No, I didn't create, that's for sure. Maybe there must be someone who creates, but even if there is someone, it's irrelevant to me. It doesn't have anything in my life. And it's interesting, it says that we believe in last day, but they are not believers. Like the way I see it is the moments that I try to enjoy, the moments that I try to get pleasure, when I look at them, only thing I see there is they are fading out. They are so transient. So this is how I understand, at least in this context, that I don't believe in last day, is that I don't believe in hereafter, akhirah, is that when I look at the moment, when I look at the sweet thing in front of me that I want to enjoy, what I see is just a transient moment. I know that it will go away immediately. I try to catch it and I know that I will not be able to catch it. And these, the way of looking things, that they are not connected to this absolute being, and they are so transient, it gives me this anxiety that everything is going away from me. I'm trying to be happy, but I know that I cannot be happy. I am trying to, get the sweet thing in front of me, a friendship, love, success, whatever you call, but I know that I cannot get it. And with the God, Allah, that I claim to believe, is not there in my life to help me to get this. I have to get it. So God is irrelevant to me, meaning I have to do it, or Muhammad has to do it, or Yusuf has to do it, Aysenur has to do it. And I know I cannot do it. So only thing I have in front of me is anxiety, this sadness. So there's this immediate links between something sweet and pain. I cannot even enjoy this momentary sweetness in the things because I know how they go away. I want to enjoy the sweetness of my daughter. The cuteness is there, but because I'm attributing this cuteness to baby, regardless of how much I claim I believe in God, I believe in Aira, I believe in eternal beauty, I believe in eternal cuteness, they are not in my life practically. And when I look at my daughter, all I see is that my anxiety that, oh, she will get, older. This, the term we call as adolescence or ugliness. We all go through, especially males, unfortunately. This adolescence of every species is so ugly, right? Unfortunately, my cute daughter will go through this as well. And this is what I see when I look at her. I cannot even enjoy this momentary cuteness because, again, my belief in God is not relevant, it's not practically there. And I'm leaving mic to Aysenur, inshallah.
Thank you again, Brother Birkan. I guess, just in this second case study, what I understand is something that resonates with me very closely, which is having an understanding that I believe, but not acting according to it. And not having that which I may conclude upon reflect into my own actions, or even internally within my own mindset, I just talked about understanding things as meaningful and reading the speech of God, and the next thing I know it, like, something will happen, a mild annoyance perhaps, and I'll be like, oh, why did this have to happen despite all my efforts? And it's so easy to get, sucked into that sort of perpetual cycle in which I divorce myself from the beliefs that I have actually concluded upon. And so, what I understand is that in this sense, belief stays premature, right? I have an understanding of belief. I have tasted it, but it's not reflected in my life. And I live in such a way where I end up deceiving myself. I lie to myself through my actions because they don't reflect the understanding that I have actually come to conclude upon. And in such a state, I'm just living life as it happens, because that belief does not become practical in my life. And I can't even have, instant pleasures, like in the first case study, in which I'm kind of ignorant and I don't even know that things are to be read, because I know that things should be read, but I don't do it. And so I don't even taste that sort of fleeting pleasure of it. I'm in this sort of continuous state of torment. It's almost kind of like, for the students out there, and maybe almost everyone has been a student at one point, having an assignment, having a paper I need to write, but procrastinating on it. But let's say I start watching TV, or I look at my phone, or, I started baking cookies, and I can't even enjoy those events because it's looming in my mind. It's looming that I know I should be doing something else. That's an analogy, and there's no need to stretch it, but the idea is that I'm aware of what my beliefs entail, and yet I can't seem to reflect them onto my actions. And usually it means that there's something missing there. There's a premature aspect to it. And I think this is the second example. We can understand this as a second example of how punishment follows me because of my mindset, because I don't implement them in my mind and action. As in the tongue of the youth, you're not woke enough, but just woke enough to know that the pleasure is not real. And so, it says here that in the other verse, it said that the heart is sealed, that there's no feeling, but here I have knowledge of it. I have a certain awareness of it, and that awareness brings me further torment because I'm not able to actualize them. It's like knowing that once I eat the ice cream, while I eat the ice cream, I have the anxiety that I know it will finish, and what will happen to me, that it's transient. And so in this, I think that in the second case study, we see an example in which punishment manifests itself from a sense of awareness, but lack of implementation. And that's all I wanted to add for this second case study.
I guess we can continue with the third case study, and Aysenur, maybe you like to start now.
Right, sure, I'll start. So finally moving on to our third case study as we come to 1 hour in our presentation. So here is a verse from the 3rd chapter of the Quran. And it says, "And do not think that those who rejoice in what they have brought forward and like to be praised for what they did not do, never think them to be in safety from the punishment, and for them is a painful punishment. Adhabun alim." And here what I understand is that I experience a sort of punishment when I try to claim praise for something I didn't do. And this leads to anxiety as well, which is another form of punishment. I perhaps, again, just speaking from my experiences, which may seem very mundane, but everyone can kind of reflect them onto their own experiences. I write a paper and I think to myself, yes, I have written this paper. It is me who achieves this, who has achieved writing this paper. And the moment I attribute it to myself, I feel a sense of dread. I feel a sense of anxiety. Because guess what, Aysenur? You have to write another paper and then another one. And God forbid it gets praised by others, or, it's acknowledged as a quote unquote good, or even published, let's say. Because, I can't even enjoy that, because there's anxiety of, well, how am I going to achieve this again? How am I going to write it again? Each semester I end up writing final papers, and you would think that after a while of going through the educational system that new papers wouldn't induce anxiety, but it does all the time. Sure, part of it is from my study habits that could improve, but there's, the moment I think that I am doing something and I attribute it to myself, I pave the road for a mentality in which I must do it again. I must achieve it again. I must attain it again. I must show others that I can do it again. And deep down, I know that because it's not actually me, I feel scared and I feel anxious. And these are the most real forms of anxiety that I feel, the most real forms of punishment that I feel. It's really, I can confirm it's a painful punishment. And I inflict it upon myself. And every time I achieve something, it becomes a burden because I'm burdened with something I can't do. It turns into a form of torture for me. And I think that, again, though, trying to approach these verses as a means through which we understand mercy and healing, there's a way to transform this initial experience of punishment into an understanding that I am not the one achieving. I am not the one performing. I am not the one attaining whatever it is that I am trying to attain. It is all given, always. Because I recognize that I am not the true source of it. I can't be the true source of it. And that opportunity, this sort of anxiety, this sort of torment, this sort of self-doubt, it becomes an opportunity for me, another invitation towards the mercy of my Creator. An invitation for me to acknowledge that I am not the source of whatever is being created. And the moment I acknowledge it, that burden is lifted. Because He gave it to me, He can give it to me again. And if He doesn't, He creates everything else for me. But I'm relieved of that burden because I know that it's not me that will have to do it. I don't have to be worried about it. It's going to be taken care of. And this is a clear mercy for me. In the moments that I'm able to fully internalize it and experience it. And those moments for me at least can be very brief, but they're very, the mercy in them is so clear, it's so sweet. And then of course, if I don't remind myself, or, again, I say if I don't remind myself, if I don't take the opportunities given to me as reminders to stay conscious, reconfirm this reality, then I can fall into that same perpetual punishment. But in each of them is an invitation towards mercy. In each of them is an invitation towards letting that burden go by acknowledging who the true, genuine Creator is in each situation. And I think, I was just, I remember in our study circles when we were discussing this, I was so struck by it. I thought that, we talk about belief education and I just, it felt to me like this is an instance in which the Quran is offering to me a solution to a very pervasive problem of anxiety, of performance, of effort. Like this is something that I experience very clearly in myself, but I also see very, very clearly in everyone else. And here is a solution to something that is so human, to something that is experienced on such a daily, moment-to-moment basis. There's so many, like I'm part of certain graduate student groups, and everyone's talking about coping with the current circumstances and situations, and everyone is just depressed and anxious. And sure, it's a sort of camaraderie in which I'm like, okay, I'm not the only one. But, in terms of long-term or grounded, firm solutions, I was just struck by how relevant this is to me. I was thinking, yeah, this is spelling out my life to me right now. This is spelling out the very experience and state of being that I'm undergoing. And that just shows to me that, yeah, like I could confirm that this speech is meant for me right now, in my current existence, to my problems right now, to the problems that I personally, Aysenur, experience. And, I think that's really just a wonderful manifestation of mercy. Inshallah.
Okay, I was not able to unmute myself. Thank you for this emotional introduction for this part. So I just will probably add only a few, like a short thing. Is that one thing, this verse is talking about all these achievements, all these beautiful things that is brought forward. Things that give us rejoicement, farah, right? The relief, enjoyment, things that we enjoy most. And the verse tells us that, yes, they are in front of you. That's true. And sometimes they are brought forward in your hands. Sometimes you see that there's a, beautiful food prepared, and it was your hand inside the, the bowl making the food or cooking the food. You saw your hands in it. And achievement and sweetness, pleasant pleasure is there in front of you, that's for sure. But the thing is, you didn't do them. Like, do not attribute the praise, or do not ask for praise for yourself, for something that you enjoy, that you experience in firsthand. Because if you do that, Birkan, because you always do that, Birkan, if we start from the other way around, what you end up with, Birkan, is anxiety, punishment, depression. You punishing yourself. With every achievement that you attribute to yourself, with every pleasure, sweetness that you observe in reality, if you attribute them to yourself instead of just enjoying the mercy of your creator, you will be ending up with anxiety. There's, I guess, the people like ourselves who spend more time than enough in academia, this idea of success, the idea of, the promotion, success, achievement. I hear these buzzwords like, I don't know, maybe at least 10 times every week from my supervisors, from people that I interact with. I have to live with them to the extent, like, this is so serious, like there's no, I mean, this is not a joke. It is so serious that it makes us cancer. This anxiety, this depression kills us, like literally. And Quran here tells me that instead of enjoying the sweetness in your life, instead of experience this sweetness and follow its message and reach the perpetual, like, everlasting sweetness, everlasting satisfaction, you hinder, you cut the connection between this sweetness and its doer. As the verse says, يَفْعَلُ, like لَمْ يَفْعَلُ, that the things that you didn't do, you attributing it to the wrongdoer. Instead of finding the real doer beyond them, behind them, sorry, you're trying to shoulder them, which will give you pain because you cannot weigh the things that you're trying to shoulder. One of my friends, he was asking me, I'm not giving this example to criticize, like, this is just, it's easier to see when it is, the outside. He's asking me prayer, telling me that, Birkan, please pray so that the God would give money to me so that I can buy a house to my family. So related to the second case as well, like God being impractical in our life, that if something good happens, or if something good to be happen in my life, I have to do it. How else, it can happen? If I don't buy a house to my family, how else they can get a house? I have to shoulder this, the entire weight of the house on my shoulders. Even when there is the idea of God somewhere, it's irrelevant, as we studied before. So if there's an achievement, I have to do it. I guess that's all that I can say for now. And inshallah, we end with this. So I'm leaving the mic to Aysenur for the last time, and then we can end with your comments and questions, inshallah.
Hello, everyone again. Yeah, just as a brief overview and summary of these 3 case studies, these 3 examples of different ways of understanding punishment. I wanted to go over them just to kind of solidify it in our minds. So the first case example that we talked about was when we don't see reality as speaking to us. And so we end up with some sort of immediate pleasure, which is in creation, but that in itself is also juxtaposed with torture because I don't see the meaningful aspect of it. So this is, for me, one way of understanding adab, of not seeing creation speak to me. Now, the second way is in which we have some sort of form of understanding of belief. You know, we don't just completely ignore the messages and the speech around us, but then the punishment is also worse because I have my human faculties and I can study the universe as something and I have some sort of understanding of reality, but it's not practiced in my life. And because of this, I'm also in a sort of constant adab al-alim, the sort of punishment that comes from not implementing my conclusion, from not furthering that belief, which would then manifest very clearly in how I view the world and interact with the world. And finally, as a third example, we talked about how I see the good things in front of me, the achievements that are given to me, and how when I try to attribute them to myself, I experience again torture. And this third form of punishment we talked about comes from a sort of self-attribution. When I do not recognize the true owner, the rightful owner, the true source of existence in everything in my life, including things that I claim, you know, as having achieved or having attained. And, you know, I just wanted to, I think throughout this presentation, it could just be like, okay, well, that's a lot of talk about really rather dreadful things and various sort of punishments that we experience internally within ourselves. But also that all of these 3 forms are invitations towards something sweet, are invitations towards mercy. They tilt our gaze towards the all-merciful one and invite us to experience his mercy and look to him and acknowledge him. And that within the punishment, there is always this sort of door or gateway to experiencing the compassion and mercy of our Creator. And that's all I have to say. You know, it's very interesting how, you know, when you set out to study something like adab, something very sweet can come from its result. And, you know, for me, again, I felt like this concept that at first seems rather alien because, you know, no one is kind of putting my limbs on fire or hitting me with a belt, or I don't experience timeout. I don't think I ever have, being an unruly child. But, you know, I still nevertheless, these verses are very experientially close to me. They in fact define my life, my day-to-day life, because my life is full of interactions with myself, with my own feelings, with, you know, social relationships. And so these are, I think this is, you know, for me, I really felt that this was, and this is guidance that I can try to understand and that I see very much so applicable to my life, inshallah. And, you know, I'm interested to hear other people's comments and reflections as well.
Thank you for that beautiful presentation to both Brother Birkan and Aysenur, for sharing all your thoughts and making it very practical. So at this time, we'll take comments and questions. So again, you can just raise your hand and we'll unmute you. So I do see Radwa, your hand is up, so I will unmute you. Please go ahead.
Sure. Thank you. Assalamu alaikum. I just wanted to give a general reflection because I've been thinking about this topic for a while. It really comforts me to think of sort of unpleasant feelings as warnings. I think I honestly think if I were to taste true punishment, it would be kind of unbearable. So I think the unpleasant feelings come to warn me. It's sort of telling me, "Oh, well, watch out! You're going to fall into something you cannot survive." Honestly, like, yeah, basically, and I guess also it's an invitation to get closer to the truth. I mean, we're trying to understand the creator, and we're trying to see all of the qualities of the creator. And sometimes tasting mercy and compassion is pleasant, of course, but sometimes there are other qualities that you don't understand how does it actually manifest, or you don't know how you're going to experience it. And you just have to, I think these unpleasant feelings just train you to keep yourself open to experiencing all of the qualities. So sometimes it's not going to be mercy and compassion. Sometimes it's going to be justice or truth, or it's going to be forgiveness, or it's going to be tawbah. I'm not sure how to translate tawbah, but I think it's repentance. But yeah, so I think these moments, days, months, or years, in my experience, they've always encouraged me to open up to the different qualities that I still cannot comprehend, and I still cannot sort of anticipate how they're going to be manifested in either within me or in the rest of creation. And to really just be patient to sort of receive or see the relationship between the sweetness and the sweet giver, like you guys talked about, or the relationship between, if it's the truth and the truth writer. So yeah, so that's why I would appreciate moments like these or experiences like these. And to be honest, like you said, you come out more, I would call it more human, or more more humble, I guess. It really humbles you. So I like that about these experiences. I don't think we can actually survive the punishment, because the true punishment would be disbelief. And if you're in disbelief, it's I don't think it's bearable. I don't want to know if it's bearable or not, but like, I wouldn't want to. I think these experiences are warnings, and I guess the more alert you are, the more you take it as an opportunity to sort of train yourself and your character and the way you perceive the world and your existence. Then it becomes a joyful experience, because you're taking something from this situation. You're not being consumed by it and overtaken by it. That's
Thank you for your comment. If our presenters have anything to say, please go ahead. And if not, perhaps maybe at this time, we can read the comment that was posted in our chat box a bit earlier by Brother Faraz. Brother Faraz, would you like to read your comment? And if not, we can just have somebody else read it. Or perhaps I can just read it. Yeah, okay. I'll just read it then. It says, I find your presentation very engaging and thought-provoking so far. Thank you. This verse may come up or may not. Typing this now, as I may have to be away from my computer. Okay, so we'll go to the verse. It's chapter 34, verse 14. And the verse says, "Yet when we decreed that he, Solomon, should die, nothing showed them that he was dead except an earthworm that gnawed away his staff, that is, his material possession body. And when he fell to the ground, those beings who are born, i.e., given existence, saw clearly that, had they but understood the reality which was beyond the reach of their perception, they would not have continued in the shameful suffering." And then he continues, leaving comment now as I may have to be away from the computer. Who is suffering? Okay, and then he says, who is suffering here and why? How would they not have continued in punishment or shameful adab? How can I confirm the truth of the statement? What can I learn about the purpose of adab from this verse? So, Brother Faraz, I don't know if you'd like to add anything to your comment. If so, you can just raise your hand. So I'll give you a moment to respond. Okay, just he says just something for people to reflect on, along with what was presented. Yeah, thank you for posing this verse along with these questions. I think it does tie into the presentation very closely with the 3 different ways that were presented to us. So I'm just gonna mute myself. Please go ahead, Brother Birkan.
Thank you. Just to show how respectful I am to our loved moderator, I raised my hand. So just one thing about this idea of disbelief or being unbeliever. So this is my personal idea, of course. When I read verses about unbelief or disbelief in Quran, yes, definitely it has multiple different dimensions, multiple different aspects, looking at every possible people around me. Like, for instance, it's talking about people who are really unbeliever, like as we categorize as unbeliever, like atheists, let's say. And maybe there's something in this verse talking about atheist people as I can benefit. For instance, giving this as an example, telling me that, yeah, there are such people in your life, and this is about them. I can take it that way, definitely. It may give me some guidance. I'm not denying that. But I guess there's another way to look at them. Verses who talks about disbelief or unbelief is that my Creator is talking to me, and everything he says there is about me. So if my Creator, for some reason, decided to talk about unbelief or disbelief, there must be something that he is warning me against. As we read, like in the verses, so very quickly, sorry. Whether you warn them or do not warn them, my Creator is warning me about my disbelief. It doesn't have to be a categorical disbelief, that I don't have to be calling myself as atheist. But there are moments of my life that I act as a disbeliever. For example, I say, I eat a beautiful fruit, I enjoy the beauty, I enjoy the taste, and I say this taste is coming from this fruit. If I don't buy this specific fruit from this specific market, I cannot enjoy it. Hence, every time I need to go to this specific market that I bought this fruit, because the fruits I buy from this specific market is more delicious than the ones that I buy from another market. So if my wife, for instance, decide to go another place and buy another fruit, I get anxious. I say, I cannot get, sweetness, the pleasure from these things that you buy. It has to be these specific things. And I do this a lot, right? If you think about it, we have countless examples like this. So my creator is telling me, warning me that Birkan, in some moments of your life, whether I warn you or not, you don't take them as warnings. Hence your anxiety, hence your depression, hence your punishment or torture. So why I'm saying this, like, again, when I read these verses, I usually take them as speaking to me so that I can benefit at most. I can benefit most. Rather than taking these verses as talking about some people that I call as atheists, pantheists, ex-theists, doesn't matter. I think personally, this is the way to benefit and take guidance and healing from Quran. Otherwise, as I said at the very beginning, otherwise it becomes a gossip between me and my creator. My creator telling me that, oh, Birkan, do you know these atheists? I created them, but I also don't know what to do with them. Or wait, I know what to do with them. I will throw them in the fire. You can enjoy, thinking about that. I don't think this is the book of gossip. This is the book of guidance and healing for me. And I think it's talking about me with every verse. Oh, so another verse for us, and another verse that is interesting to go with Birkan's comment. I guess he's talking about this, like a comment I'm making now. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. What does God get from punishing you if you are grateful and attain to belief? Seeing that God is always responsive to gratitude, all-knowing. Okay, the last part is, I guess, his question. What does God get from punishing you if you are grateful and attain to belief? And then he adds, seeing that God is always responsive to gratitude, all-knowing. Okay, no, it is the verse. Okay, thank you. Seeing that God is always responsive to gratitude, all-knowing. Okay, it makes more sense. So when I am grateful, I don't get these, let's say, the punishment. Or I know that God is all-knowing. I don't swear, I don't cut a connection between sweet thing and the doer or giver of the sweet thing. And that's all, inshallah.
Jazakallah. Okay, thank you for that. So at this time, we are out of time. Thank you to both of our presenters and all of our participants for making this very interactive. Eid Mubarak again, and that will be the end of the second session for today, inshallah.
Let me finish with the closing dua, inshallah. سبحانك لا علم لنا إلا ما علمتنا إنك أنت العليم الحكيم. الفاتحة.